St. Augustine, Commentary on the Gospel of John, chapter 6, verse 60 to 72, following. Then said the Lord Jesus, Have I not chosen you 12, and one of you is a devil? Therefore, should he have said, I have chosen 11, or is a devil also chosen, and among the elect? Persons are wont to be called elect by way of praise. Or was man elected because some great good was done by him, without his will and knowledge? This belongs peculiarly to God. The contrary is characteristic of the wicked. For as wicked men make a bad use of the good works of God, so on the contrary, God makes a good use of the evil works of wicked men. How good it is that the members of the body are, as they can be disposed only by God, their author and framer. Nevertheless, what evil use does wantonness make of the eyes? What ill use does falsehood make of the tongue? Does not the false witness first both slay his own soul with his tongue, and then, after he has destroyed himself, endeavor to injure another? He makes an ill use of the tongue, but the tongue is not therefore an evil thing. The tongue is God's work, but iniquity makes an ill use of that good works of God. How do they use their feet who run into crimes? How do murderers employ their hands? And what ill use do wicked men make of those good creatures of God that lie outside of them? With gold they corrupt judgment and oppress the innocent. Bad men make a bad use of the very light. For by evil living they employ even the very light with which they see into the service of their villainies. A bad man, when going to a bad deed, wishes the light to shine for him, lest he stumble. He who has already stumbled and fallen within, that which he is afraid of in his body has already befallen him in his heart. Hence, to avoid the tediousness of running through them separately, a bad man makes a bad use of all the good creatures of God. A good man, on the contrary, makes a good use of the evil deeds of wicked men. And what is so good as the one God? Since indeed the Lord himself said, There is none good but the one God. Mark chapter 10, verse 10. By how much he is better then, by so much the better use he makes of our evil deeds. What worse than Judas? Among all that adhere to the Master, among the 12, to him was committed the common purse, to him was allotted the dispensing for the poor. Unthankful for so great a favor, so great an honor, he took the money and lost righteousness. Being dead, he betrayed life. Him whom he followed as a disciple, he persecuted as an enemy. All this evil was Judas, but the Lord employed his evil for good. He endured to be betrayed to redeem us. Behold, Judas' evil was turned to good. How many martyrs has Satan persecuted? If Satan left off persecuting, we should not today be celebrating the very glorious crown of St. Lawrence. If then God employs the evil works of the devil himself for good, what the bad man effects by making a bad use is to hurt himself, not to contradict the goodness of God. The Master makes use of that man, and if he knew not how to make use of him, the master contriver would not have permitted him to be. Therefore he says, One of you is a devil. while I have chosen you 12. This saying, I have chosen you 12, may be understood in this way, that 12 is a sacred number. For the honor of that number was not taken away because one was lost, for another was chosen into the place of the one that perished. Acts chapter 1 verse 26. The number remained a sacred number, a number containing 12, because they were to make known the Trinity throughout the whole world, that is, throughout the 4 quarters of the world. That is the reason of the 3 times 4. Judas then only cut himself off, not profaned the number 12, he abandoned his teacher, for God appointed a successor to take his place. All this that the Lord spoke concerning his flesh and blood, and in the grace of that distribution he promised us eternal life, and that he meant those that eat his flesh and drink his blood to be understood from the fact of their abiding in him and he in them, and that they understood not who believed not, and that they were offended through their understanding spiritual things in a carnal sense, and that while these were offended and perished, the Lord was present for the consolation of the disciples who remained. For proving whom he asked, "Will you also go away?" That the reply of their steadfastness might be known to us, for he knew that they remained with him. Let all this then avail us to this end, most beloved, that we eat not the flesh and blood of Christ merely in the sacrament, as many evil men do, but that we eat and drink to the participation of the Spirit, that we abide as members in the Lord's body. To be quickened by his Spirit, and that we be not offended, even if many do now with us eat and drink the sacraments in a temporal manner, who shall in the end have eternal torments. For at present Christ's body is, as it were, mixed on the threshing floor. But the Lord knows them that are his. To Timothy chapter 2 verse 19. If you know what you thresh, that the substance is there hidden, that the threshing has not consumed what the winnowing has purged. Certain are we, brethren, that all of us who are in the Lord's body and abide in him, that he also may abide in us, have of necessity to live among evil men in this world, even unto the end. I do not say among those evil men who blaspheme Christ, for there are now few found who blaspheme with the tongue, but many who do so by their life. Among those, then, we must necessarily live, even unto the end. But what is this that he said, "He that abides in me, and I in him"? What, but that which the martyrs heard? "He that perseveres unto the end, the same shall be saved." Matthew chapter 24, verse 13. How did St. Lawrence, whose feast we celebrate today, abide in him? He abode even to temptation, abode even to tyrannical questioning, abode even to bitterest threatening, abode even to distraction. That were a Tréphon, abode even to savage torture. For he was not put to death quickly, but tormented in the fire. He was allowed to live a long time, nay, not allowed to live a long time, but forced to die a slow, lingering death. Then, in that lingering death, in those torments, because he had well eaten and well drunk, as one who had feasted on that meat, as one intoxicated with that cup, he felt not the torments. For he was there who said, It is the Spirit that quickens. For the flesh indeed was burning, but the Spirit was quickening the soul. He shrank not back, and he mounted into the kingdom. But the Holy Martyr Christus, whose day we celebrated 5 days ago, had said to him, Mourn not, my son, for Christus was a bishop, he was a deacon. Mourn not, says he, you shall follow me after 3 days. He said 3 days, meaning the interval between the day of Saint Christus' suffering and that of Saint Lawrence's suffering, which falls on today. 3 days is the interval. What comfort! He says not, Mourn not, my son, the persecution will cease and you will be safe, but do not mourn, whither I precede you shall follow, nor shall your pursuit be deferred. 3 days will be the interval, and you shall be with me. He accepted the oracle, vanquished the devil, and attained to the triumph.